This is an update on the cutting the teeth. The blank is chucked up. I had to, here's another blank so you can see it. That's chucked up there. What I had to do is I had to get an expandable mandrel because the size of this hole is slightly over 3/4, so a 3/4 tapered mandrel would not work. It would slide through. So I ended up having to buy a expandable mandrel that expands from 3/4 to I think 7/8. And I pressed it in place. I use an arbor press and force it in place so it locks it up. Chucked it up. And the part that took time was initial setup. I had to make sure that the tailstock was going to run true. And I put a dial indicator in here, and I went back and forth and aligned the two vices, the rotary table and the tailstock, so the teeth would be parallel and not vary in depth. So that was all done. That took about 45 minutes for setup, believe it or not, because I didn't want to make a mistake. And the second thing I had to do, which took time, was part of that 45 minutes, is get the center. So I ended up, measuring. I put a tool on top of here, measured, and then lowered it, measured with it on top, and then on the bottom actually. And then I did half of that, and then I centered it and locked everything down. The knee is locked, and that's the first tooth you see. I just finished cut. I'm making 30 thousandths passes. Each pass, so I had to do about 6 passes or thereabout. The last one was only about 20 thousandths. So the tooth depth is, let me show you my DRO. And this is the actual tooth depth right there. It is 0.223 deep, and that's a match on the old teeth. So that's the first tooth that was cut. It does take time, but we're certainly on the way. And I'm going to have to rotate the rotary table. It's 5 turns. Complete turns plus 35 extra pins, and that will swing it to the next tooth. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come back to clear it so I can clear the cutter, rotate it, the required turns, and form another tooth. And the most important thing is when you're cutting gears is don't stop halfway in the middle of a cut. In other words, complete one whole complete tooth. Don't stop and say, well, I'll come back and do it, because when you shut things off, everything goes to zero and you got to start all over again, and it's difficult. So what I do is I will cut one complete tooth down to the required depth, and then if I feel like stopping at the end of the day, that's when I shuttle off and stop it. I don't shuttle off anytime in between, because you just lose count where you are. I've done this before, and I found out that's the best way of doing it. So I think that should do it for now. It's a bit noisy, so I'm not going to record me cutting because it is too noisy. I do have the X feed set up on a stop, so if I get a little sidetracked, the table will stop. This is the stop right here. It will hit the stop and shut the drive motor off for the X-axis. The Y-axis, I just manually move it into the required depth at 30 thousandths at a time. So that should do it for this one. And I'll probably shoot another video when I'm down to the last tooth on this particular blank. And then, of course, I got to start all over again. I got to do this 4 times total. This is number 1, so it's a slow process, but it does get done. And that should do it until the next video.